All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm really excited for our deep dive today. We're going to be uh, looking at something I think is pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's this idea of expecting little from others, right? But demanding a lot from ourselves.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're taking this from an excerpt of, let me see, it's called Pasted Text. And it's all about flipping expectations, basically.
Yeah.
Like on their head, you know, and how that can lead to uh, more happiness,
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds kind of counterintuitive at first,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Like, are we supposed to just become like super cynical and expect nothing from anyone?
Right.
Because that doesn't sound like a recipe for happiness.
No, it doesn't. So that's what we're going to unpack today. Like, what does that actually mean, and how does it actually work?
Yeah, exactly.
So starting with that first part, the expecting little from others. What does that even mean?
Well, it's not about, like you said, becoming jaded or just like, expecting the worst from everyone.
Right.
It's more about letting go of this need to control how other people behave.
Okay.
Because think about it. How many times have you been disappointed by someone?
Well, all the time.
Right. Like where they didn't meet your expectations.
Yeah,
It's like
definitely.
maybe a friend forgets your birthday or a coworker doesn't, follow through on something they said they would.
Yeah, or like cancels plans last minute.
Exactly. All of that stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like
It
it,
hurts.
it hurts and it makes you question like the whole relationship sometimes.
Totally.
And so when we have these high expectations of others, you're basically just setting yourself up for a lot of potential hurt and disappointment.
Right. Okay.
But when we let go of those expectations, it actually frees us from that potential hurt.
Okay, so then we're not disappointed.
Right. And then you also start to appreciate the small acts of kindness that you might have just totally overlooked before.
Mm.
Like when your partner does the dishes without you asking, or a stranger holds the door for you, like suddenly those things become so much more meaningful.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because you're not expecting it. So when it happens, it's just like, oh, wow, that's so nice.
Yeah, it's like the surprise factor amplifies the good feelings.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's expecting little from others, which I'm starting to get. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But then what about this other side? The demanding a lot from ourselves. Because that, I feel like, could also go wrong in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
right? Like, are we just setting ourselves up for, like, tons of failure?
Right. And that's where I think people can go wrong with this idea. It's not about like setting this like impossibly high standard and then just constantly beating yourself up for not meeting it. It's really not about that.
Okay, so what is it about then?
It's more about shifting that focus inward. It's about like personal growth,
All right.
self-improvement.
So more about challenging yourself, right?
Yeah.
To learn new things, try new things.
Exactly. Like maybe you finally like decide to learn that language you've always wanted to learn.
Yeah.
Or take up like a new challenging hobby.
Okay.
Or like finally tackle that project you've been putting off forever.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
It's about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone and seeing like what you're actually capable of.
Okay, I like that.
Because we often limit ourselves.
Right.
Think we can't do things and then
We surprise ourselves.
exactly.
And then that ties into like the whole sense of purpose thing too.
Yeah.
Because when you're challenging yourself and like pushing yourself to grow, then you're sort of like actively creating a meaning for yourself.
Absolutely. Like every step that you take, no matter how small, it contributes to that feeling of accomplishment.
Right.
And then that fuels you to keep going.
Right. Motivates you.
It motivates you, exactly.
But what about like those times when we don't succeed? Like you try something new, you take on a new challenge and you fail.
Yeah.
That can be really discouraging.
It can. And that's where I think the self-compassion piece comes in.
Right.
It's not about beating yourself up for those mistakes. It's about embracing the whole process, learning from those setbacks, and celebrating all the milestones along the way.
So this philosophy is like inherently tied to being kinder to yourself.
I think so, yeah. Because when you're demanding a lot from yourself in terms of like effort and growth, then you also learn to recognize your own worth. You don't need that external validation.
Right, because you're validating yourself.
Exactly. And you start seeing those failures not as like personal shortcomings, but as opportunities to learn and grow.
So it's almost like you're like building a more resilient sense of self.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because you're not constantly looking to other people to tell you you're good enough because you already know that.
exactly.
And that must affect relationships too, right?
It does, yeah. That shift in mindset can have a huge impact on your relationships.
So this is what I was wondering about before. Like,
Yeah.
how does expecting little from others lead to healthier relationships.
Yes.
That sounds kind of counterintuitive.
It does. But think about it this way. When you're not like needing others to meet all of your expectations, you're actually creating more space for genuine connection
Yeah.
because you're not relying on them to like complete you or make you happy. You're already finding that within yourself.
So you're taking the pressure off.
Exactly.
Mm.
And it also cultivates empathy. You know, you start to understand that everyone's facing their own struggles, their own battles.
Oh, yeah.
And so instead of getting like frustrated or judgmental, you're coming at it from a place of understanding and compassion.
Right. Which is like the opposite of being cynical.
Right. Exactly.
So to recap, with this whole philosophy, we're talking freedom from disappointment, self-reliance, sense of purpose, self-compassion, and healthier relationships.
Yeah.
It's pretty compelling.
It is. It's a powerful framework, I think, for living a happier and more meaningful life. And it's really all about understanding that true happiness comes from within and focusing on what you can control. Your own actions, your own growth, your own mindset. So I think as you go forward, you know, and think about your own journey, just ask yourself, like, how might shifting those expectations, both from others and from yourself, how might that actually lead to greater happiness and well-being in your life?
Good question.
You know, what can be possible if you really embrace this idea of expecting little and demanding much?
I love that. Expect little, demand much. I think that's a great place to leave it for today. Thanks for joining me for another deep dive,
Thanks for having me.
and we'll see you all next time.